public hearing for Wednesday, May 27th, 2020. Can I hear a roll call, please, Mr. McCullough?
Mr. Kurtz.
Here.
Mr. Storlo.
Here.
Mr. Natali, me, I'm here. Mr. Mercado.
Here.
Mr. Bowman.
Here.
Mr. Dawson.
Present.
Mr. Carderas.
Here.
Mr. Linder. Mr. Tedisco.
Here.
Alternates, Mr. Anderson.
Here.
Ms. Downs.
Here.
And Mr. Selmont. We have a quorum.
Thank you. I'd like to join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance
To the flag
of the United
States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation,
Under God,
indivisible,
liberty and justice.
justice for all.
Okay, first order of business tonight is a zone map change petition of Bartlett Headquarters LLC, 255 or 2055 Meriden Road, Route 80 to R80 to C3. Can we hear the call for that, please?
Absolutely. The continuation of the public hearing for the zone map change petition of Bartlett Headquarters LLC, care of John McCarthy, 40 Maple Avenue, Wolcott, Connecticut, 06716, to change the zone from R80 to C3. Property located at 2055 Meriden Road, Cheshire, Connecticut, 06410 is generally shown on Assessor's Map number 7, lot number 23 in a C3 and R80 zone. Packet information is available for review on the town website homepage under documents distributed or displayed during virtual meetings.
Great, thank you. I assume Mr. McCarthy's on there.
Yes, sir, I am.
Do we have any comments or anything?
If I may, well, we have a number of comments. Suzanne is here. I'd rather she read them into the record. John McCarthy, you've seen them. We want to get them in, and the commission has seen them, but we want to read everything into the record. It's going to take us a few minutes. There's quite a few of them, so.
Okay, go right ahead.
Okay. Received Monday, May 11th at 7:59 p.m. Hi, he said there are no lights on his building shining at our house, but there are 4 very bright lights right at the top of the 2-story building that shine right at our house all night long. Fondly, Mary House. Received Monday, May 11th at 8:16 p.m. I am concerned that assumptions are being made as to our understanding of the proposed change. We are very aware of the region being proposed. That's signed Timothy Bernhardt. Next is comments from Monday, May 11th at 8:23 p.m. My apologies. Seems we all misunderstood the letter and intended business development. Regards, Lisa Murray. Received Tuesday, May 12th, 10:36 p.m. Very concerned about this proposal. Street already has a lot of traffic with many who walk to IGA, and adding more traffic, especially those who will be drinking, can make this dangerous. Will there be a smell? The lake community in Wolcott is right there, Hitchcock Lake. This needs to be carefully looked at with not just Cheshire, but mostly Wolcott dealing with this. There needs to be more information. That is from Teresa Cool. Received today, Tuesday, May 26th at 2:52 p.m. Dear Cheshire Planning and Zoning Committee, I am writing this email in protest of the change in zoning of residential property to commercial at 2055 Meriden Road location. This proposed area is directly abutting residential areas, which is why it was made an R80 zone in the first place. When we went to Cheshire Zoning 10 years ago to investigate this area where we were buying, we purchased our home with the knowledge that our lots and adjacent lots were all residential and there would be no danger of any commercial area building nearby. Having a commercial area so close to our residential homes will adversely affect all of our property values, even those of us that are not directly next to this lot, making it more difficult to sell. The other serious concern is that this owner will slowly expand this zone change into a larger area every few years, encroaching more and more, converting more of his R80 property into a commercial lot, which will again negatively affect the value of our land. We have had light pollution issues with this commercial owner when he initially purchased this property with his backlight shining into our backyard, and this has not yet been addressed. We choose this area of Cheshire to live because of its peacefulness, surrounded by 300 acres of great space where it's very quiet, filled with a lot of wildlife. This area is also considered wetlands, which would be disturbing several natural habitats, including red-tail and Cooper's hawks nests, which have been seen here and are protected by federal government. Last week, my neighbor Mary Lee Novia and I actually saw a bald eagle in the area in question. Both my husband and I are strongly opposed to the granting of this application zone change and request that it be denied, taking into account the above considerations. Also received today, Tuesday, May 26th at 2:52 p.m. is another letter. Dear Cheshire Planning and Zoning Committee, I am also opposed to converting the R80 residential area to C3 commercial use based on the hatched area shown. My comments from our last meeting. Everyone should be allowed to speak at this hearing. Allowing the applicant to speak where the remaining participants are limited to only email comments is not giving everyone equal and fair opportunity to speak. As a result, some statements were made at the last meeting that were not true, and I was unable to speak, and the email I sent during the meeting was not correcting these statements. I do not know what happened to my email. Next bullet point. The applicant's representative made the claim assumption during the meeting that we, the residential neighbors who wrote the letters, thought that he was requesting the entire lot, approximately 4.5 acres, to be converted to commercial, and that we were misunderstanding. This was and is not true, and the applicant should not make statements as to understanding of the resident statements made in their letters. This is inappropriate. Next bullet point. The applicant's representative stated that they were good neighbors. I must disagree with this statement. The lack of communications and the applicant's disregard to the concerns of the adjacent neighbors provide direct evidence contrary to this statement. It is easy to make verbal claims like this, but the applicant's actions, more meaningful than words, is what should be considered here. In my opinion, the applicant is not a good neighbor. Next bullet point. Applicant stated that there is dense woods between his property and the existing residence adjacent. This is a subjective statement. In the winter, there is direct sight of the applicant's rear building and property from the residence area. The spotlights face backwards into the woods and into the adjacent house windows. I highly recommend you protect the residential zoning regardless of the applicant's claims. I am concerned of reducing the buffer, even a small amount, between the adjacent residential properties and the applicant's property, especially based on the applicant's past relationship with some of the residents, especially the property directly behind us at 110 Charter Oak Drive. I realize from the map it looks minor. All I can say is that the map does not give a real picture. If you were to come out and go to the back of our properties, I believe you would have a different impression from what you see from a simple 2D map. I ask that you deny the applicant's request to convert the area described from residential to commercial and maintain the full existing buffer between the commercial and residential areas. And that is it for comments for right now.
Okay, would the applicant like to respond to any of the comments he's heard or give any testimony?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Well, I think that the situation with the lights, I think that we probably have that solved. I had spoken to the property owner, and actually with speaking with Mr. Volker, I went out and I inspected myself. I went out at the Charter Oak. Just driving by from the street, I honestly couldn't see much of anything, but I then went down to the rear of the property, and there are some, I guess you would call bright lights up on top of the building. Now, just to point out, the three particular lights that are up on the second floor, that building is new. It's only, that addition was done a couple of years ago. And the town of Cheshire required the lighting for the purpose of the businesses that were going to be located there, and the specs for the lights were sent to the town of Cheshire. But in reviewing them and speaking with the owner, essentially he can accomplish, we believe, he can accomplish what the town of Cheshire required for the lighting, and aim the lights differently. best thing I could say is, yeah, they probably are aimed up a little bit too high. I don't know uh, how much of the light would go out to the neighboring homes through the woods. I imagine in the wintertime it's probably more significant than in the summer. But the fact of the matter is they are going to be changed, and they'll be changed sufficiently so that this isn't an issue with the neighbors. Now, also too, in the proposal, when the time comes of the new building, there will be sufficient screening that, whatever planning zoning commission requires at site plan approval time, to make sure that this issue doesn't happen again. Um, there was at one point the owner was, I don't know if I want to say unaware, but the someone from the zoning department had come out before pertaining to these lights, and they were inspected by someone, and I don't know who it was, in the zoning department, and they said that there was no issue, and supposedly the person from zoning also, got back to the neighbors that had complained. But that being said, the situation is going to be rectified. Like I said, I had a conversation with the owner, and he has no problem with aiming the lights further down so that they only go basically to the edge of uh, the rear of the parking area, which for his purposes, he says that's all that's really needed for him and for the businesses are there. Now,
In that point, are you saying that you're going to, with the existing building that is there now, change the lights to follow our regulations as it was a new building with the full cutoff lighting, and anything else that would be proposed and put on the new building? Would the old building be brought up to code?
Actually, both. I believe that we can remain within the code that was set 2 years ago when the addition was done by aiming the lights down, but they're still full cutoff lights, but aiming them down because they are, I'll be honest with you, they are pretty bright. So simply by aiming them, I think will alleviate that problem. And of course, whatever we do with the proposed new building would, be in line with the code, and also have the, the neighbors situation in mind when everything is put in, and to make sure that this isn't an issue again. Also too,
Would you
I
say,
think, pardon me.
sorry, so would you say that the existing building lights the way they are now, you said that it will be followed the same way the new building would be? Existing building lights will be changed to be just like your new additional building with the full cutoff in any way that that new building would follow the regulation.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Aiming.
Also,
Just you're going to do the same with the old existing building as you would the new building.
yes, well, actually, the old original building, none of the lights there are even bright enough to even get to the woods, to be honest with you. It's basically the new addition that came in a couple of years ago, and the lighting that's up on the second floor. And I don't know if being on the second floor as opposed to the first floor was something with Cheshire's code. I really have no idea. I wasn't involved in that project. But I do believe that just a re-aiming of these lights will alleviate the light situation for the neighbors.
Okay, I see a couple hands go up. There might be see Mr. Ricardo now, Mr. Natale afterwards.
Was there any thought of putting light posts that actually aimed the opposite way behind the cars? There would be no issues with the light going to the homeowners?
Well, again, at the time, and I wasn't involved with the project at the time, but at the time, that was what apparently was required by the town. At this point in time, I think too, and now what you're saying, I think, is to take it, put light posts up on the back of the parking lot, pointing the opposite direction.
Right.
At this point in time, the parking lot's all paved, and so I think to get light posts out there would be, you'd have to cut open the parking lot.
Well, if I may, the town wouldn't have required you to put your lights anywhere in particular. What we were required to do was limit them in some way. It's likely the zoning inspector, when the building was constructed, did a CO inspection to make sure that the lights are full cutoff lights. We have no reason to dispute that, but sometimes even full cutoff lights need to be redirected after they're installed to minimize the shine off of them, and that's what, I believe that's what you're agreeing to do, John?
Yeah, yes, absolutely. They will be
Yeah.
re-aimed down lower to the ground so that the amount of distance they go backwards behind the building, that amount of distance is going to be cut off basically at the back of the parking lot. So there's
And I want to
really
be
should
careful.
be.
Yeah, I was going to say, I want to be careful of some of the things that we talk about here could be site plan issues, and those are the kind of things you can explore. We don't even know where you're going to propose a building and what size it's going to be and so forth. Those are the kind of things that the commission's going to want you to address when you propose a new building, so.
Right, I just wanted to make sure that everybody is clear that we are conscious of the neighbors' concerns, and we are absolutely taking steps to alleviate the issue. And now, one other thing that
When do you anticipate you're going to do that?
within a matter of days, I would assume. I
Okay.
will follow up on it. Possibly it was done today. I'll be honest with you. I haven't spoken to the owner today at all. But we basically came to a mutual, we both agreed on the fact that for him to repoint the direction of those lights isn't going to impact what he needed to accomplish with the lights. So it really is, it's kind of a no-brainer. It's, we'll do it,
Okay.
and that'll be it.
All right, we have one more comment, Mr. Chairman. It just came in. Suzanne, I'd like to read it into the record, please.
All right, and after that, Mr. Vitale, I see your hands up. What?
Okay, received today at 7:45 p.m. It is not just about the lights. The point is that the owner is not a good neighbor. Reducing the buffer in any way will only make the issues worse. Once again, this owner will only address the lights now because he wants the zone change. This has been addressed with past with no action. The only reason it is being addressed now is because he wants a zone change. I believe the sudden willingness to make this change is due to this request. What happens when he no longer needs anything from his neighbors? Best regards, Tim Bernhardt. And that's the only comment.
Thank you. Mr. Vitale?
Yeah, no, my comment is kind of similar. So I know that, Mr. McCarthy, you weren't included or involved in the original construction for the existing building. But to paraphrase you, you said this is probably solved, and that last time they didn't do what they were going to do. So Bill, what can we do to make sure that this time the lights are pointed where they should be?
Well, that's why I asked him to give us some time on it. That's an enforcement action. Yeah.
Okay. But last time, from what Mr. McCarthy said, last time they didn't do what they were supposed to do. So we could put a time frame on it, but we're gonna have somebody go out there and check to make sure that it's done?
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Mr. Bowl?
Yeah, zoning, yeah.
Okay. How old are our lighting regulations?
Well, they were here when I came here, so they're 15 years at least, so.
Okay, so the zero cutoff lighting has been around for a while, not just the last 2 years of this building.
No, 15
Okay.
years at least they've been here.
I thought that's what it was. So even though they install the cutoff lighting, again, if they were not aimed correctly, there's no sense in having cutoff lighting. And I know, Bill, you hit it on the head when you said this is really a site plan situation. But
Well, it's two things.
there's
Yeah,
also,
it's that, yeah.
well, let me finish, please. There's
Sure.
also there seems to be a zoning violation if the ambient light is not supposed to leave the property. Therefore, if it is there any way that we can put this off until the lighting situation is corrected, if there is in fact a violation?
Mr. Chairman, you have 65 days to make a decision following closure of the public hearing, so.
Following closure?
Yeah, but if,
Yeah.
So we could, so if we
You can
close
leave
the
the hearing
public,
open. You
We-
can still leave the hearing open if you wish, so that's up to you, yeah.
well, I mean, Mr. Bowman has a point that if the existing building, he is not following the rules, how else are we going to, why give the person another permit to do something else and with the intent that he could also not follow the rules on the next building? I think is what everyone is thinking. Is it within our purview to keep the public hearing open and
Sure.
get it in the existing building, which is in violation?
Well, yeah, John, you don't object to that, correct?
Well,
I don't object to that.
My only issue at this point is kind of twofold. Number one, you know, the resident that called in or whatever and says, you know, I'm only going after the light issue because I'm looking for something. The light issue just came to my attention with the public hearing and with the letters from the residents, and that's why I'm addressing it, because it came to my attention. And also, I believe, I don't know if it was you, Mr. Volker, or someone else referring to you or whatever. At the time that the building was open and given a CO, those lights were inspected.
It would have
That
been the zoning
hasn't
enforcement
changed.
officer, probably Jimmy Fasano, so, yeah.
Yeah, that hasn't, you know, nobody went out there after an inspection and messed with the lights. They're on the second floor. They're 20 feet high. So it's not a matter of if we're in violation, you know, they were inspected. But what I'm saying is, I don't believe that there's a violation, but we still intend on rectifying the situation. So, you know, you can either, you know, take me at my word or not and continue it, whatever you want to do. It's entirely up to you.
Okay, Mr. Bowman?
Just because there was an inspection, I'm 99% sure that the inspection did not happen at night. 99% sure. Therefore, because their proper lights were put in, doesn't mean the proper lights were installed correctly. And if it's zero cutoff lighting, where it's not supposed to leave the property, then they were installed incorrectly. It's been brought to your attention. I myself would not vote for a zone text change if there was a violation on the property, and it seems that there is, and it's something that I feel that this Planning and Zoning Commission should investigate.
Well, Commissioner, my understanding, again, I got this from the owner, there was a complaint in the past, and zoning came out and inspected and deemed the lights to be in compliance, and told Mr. Bartlett that they had spoken to the resident that put in the complaint and told them the lights were in compliance. So, you know, I don't, again, I wasn't there for it, but this is the information that was conveyed to me.
But what you just said previously in this meeting, that the lights on the existing building are not following code, and you said you were going to.
No. I think you misunderstood me. The lights that are on the building are to code as of 2 years ago when the building was put up. They're full cutoff lights. They're, you know, they're what was required, and the specs at the time were sent to the building department or zoning or whoever does the inspections and does the compliance. The specs for that lighting were sent in and were approved. And when zoning came out on a complaint, they inspected the lights and inspected the, you know, the grounds and the area and you know, where the neighbors are in relation to it, and deemed them to be compliant.
So contrary to what you just said, there will not be a change on the existing building and the light because they are up to code.
No. And again, I'm sorry, again, you misunderstand me. What I'm trying to say is I don't believe that a violation exists, but we are making a change anyway. We're not going to change out the lights. We're just going to re-aim them to, you know, in such a way that there isn't going to be any ambient light traveling out through the woods.
Okay, Mr. Bowman.
Is there a record of
is there a record of the previous zoning investigation?
So for the CO, there would have been a sign off by the zoning enforcement officer before the CO was issued, so.
Right, but if there was a complaint, would there be a record of that?
Yeah, we'll have to investigate that, so. I don't know the answer to that, John.
Because if there was, that would shed some light on whether there were compliance or not at that time.
Yeah.
Okay, Mr. Bowman, the floor.
Okay. Again, I'm going to say I doubt very much whether the zoning enforcement officer at the time that went out, and Bill, could you get for us when the complaint was filed and was there a written report on it? But just because you install the correct lighting, and I keep saying the same thing and I don't like repeating myself, but just because you install the correct lighting doesn't mean it's installed correctly. It might be the correct lighting, but if it's not installed so that none of the ambient lighting leaves the property, which is the way it's supposed to be installed, then they're installed incorrectly. And I'm telling you that the sun sets even at the earliest day at 4:15, and I believe the town hall closes at 4 o'clock, and I believe the zoning enforcement officer, for the most part, works on a part-time basis. So there's no way that someone from planning and zoning went all out to inspect this lighting and be sure that none of it left the property during normal business hours. And that's why I would like from Mr. Volker to get to see when the complaint was filed and how it was rectified.
I'll check, Matt.
Okay. Anyone else? Questions on this application? Which I believe I want to hold it open now to make sure we get the comments from, not comments, but the record on what has happened with the lighting from the planning department. And that's pretty much the only reason, I guess. Mr. Bricado, I see hand up.
Yeah, I believe Commissioner Matt had put in a request to see if the applicant would put that land behind in easement or whatever to the town. Did that go anywhere?
Yeah, I think we have an attorney, a comment from the attorney. I don't know, is that something that we should read into the record there, Bill?
Yeah, Rob, I got a little bit of a spanking. I most misspoke. I should not have had that in any part of the comments for the zone text change. I believe that I could probably make those comments in the site plan application, but I misspoke, and I do apologize to the applicant for misspeaking and requesting that. Thank you.
Well, Commissioner, that's, you know, that I don't have any problem with that. I understand the circumstances. And what I told you at the last public hearing was the truth. We had already previously, a few months before, had conversations pertaining to that. We will have more conversations pertaining to that. I realize it can't be contingent on this, but just for your own, you know, information, just so that, you know, maybe you feel a little bit better about it. That essentially is the plan, is to do something with that rear property. And when I say something, I don't mean develop it. I mean something in the ways of an easement or a donation or something. So, you know, if that, you know, gives you a little better feeling about it. Granted, it's only, you know, me telling you that, but, you know, again, we did have conversations even months before you even asked about it. So thank you for your comment on that.
Okay, anyone else comment on this before we? Yes.
Chairman, we have more comments that are coming in. Suzanne, like to read them in.
Okay,
Please.
go ahead.
Suzanne, go ahead.
Yes, okay. A comment received at 4:53 tonight. Once again, it's the lights today. What happens later when our buffer is reduced? This is not a good situation. The benefits to him outweigh by the negative impact to us all. That's from Tim Bernhardt, received at 7:55. The bigger issue is if the trees are cut down and the lighting issue increases. That's from Nancy Brecher. 7:58. Why should we believe anything that's being said when it's only being said to change zoning? He talked about putting up fencing, shrubs, etc. This is a beautiful neighborhood and so peaceful. That's going to be taken away from us here on Charter Oak. That property was zoned residential for a reason, and to change it now will be a travesty. That should be part of the beautiful 300 acres the town of Cheshire owns. The wildlife that is protected should stay there. That's from Mary House. And a comment at 7:59. I cannot stress more that this is not just about lighting. I think if you lived here and this was your home, you would not look at this favorably. This is our homes and our peace that's being disrupted. And that's from Tim Bernhardt. And that's it for the 4 comments.
Okay, again, being held open. Any, Mr. McCarthy, have anything else to say tonight, or any other commission members?
Well, again, just that the, you know, the purpose for the zone change was just to pick up the buffer, because it was just short of a little space. The buffer is going to contain nothing but some underground stormwater runoff storage. I think that again, by default, I think the neighbors are going to end up with considerably more screening, depending upon what's decided if we get to site plan approval. And I'm sure the property owner doesn't want to impact the residents, you know, their peaceful, quiet enjoyment of their property. And of course, you know, he would not want to impact them and have them complain about what he's doing. So I'm sure that he already has it in his mind. I'm sure because we've had discussions about it, where there would be more than sufficient screening from the actually when the time comes. It would only be pertaining to the new building, but I have a feeling that he plans on doing more with what's pre-existing there, whether it be, you know, very high arborvitaes or fencing or whatever the case may be. I really don't understand, well, you know, I understand that neighbors have issues, but to come at this like the owner just doesn't care about anything but, you know, whatever he's getting. I mean, he bought that property, I don't know, maybe 4 years ago, 5 years ago. I don't remember exactly, and has done nothing but improve the property since. He cares about, you know, what he has and what he owns. He's invested an awful lot of money into it, so he has a, you know, a genuine concern for everything that has to do with it. And I don't know of any particular instance that these neighbors are referring to that he's been a bad neighbor. I mean, I don't know. I just don't know. That's the best thing I could say. All my dealings with him have been nothing but positive. So I don't see any reason that anything would change in the future. I have worked with him on other projects, other buildings that he built that he takes pride in what he does, and his work is impeccable. I have no reason to think that the same thing wouldn't exist here, especially it's not a customer's building he's doing, it's his own, you know, it's his own property. So I can relate to where the neighbors are coming from. Okay. I don't want them to think that, you know, that I'm heartless or the owner's heartless. You know, the owner of the property is the owner of the property. I was hired by the owner for consulting work, and I don't say something to someone that you know, I believe to be not true. If I don't know, I'll say I don't know. If I don't have an answer, I'll say I don't have an answer. So far, I believe that you know, any of the concerns can be rectified easily, and I don't really see that for the amount of area that we're looking to impact. And again, nothing is actually going to go on this area other than underground. So I think the impact, if any, would be minimal.
Okay.
Mr. Kurtz,
Yes.
this is Lou Tedesco.
Lou.
Okay, so there's going to be a new building, and the applicant says that he will screen that building. The building's not there yet. At site plan approval, we can take a look at that and see whether that's screened, and that's fine. But I'm afraid we're going to be back here in 2 weeks, and we're going to still be talking about those two lights on the second floor. So what information will we have at the next meeting that those two lights are not any longer bothering the neighbors? That's been the primary issue from what I can hear sitting here tonight. And we talk about it, and it's represented to be full cutoff lighting, and I don't doubt that. Mr. Bowman points out that if they're not aimed down, that doesn't help very much, and that makes sense. So who, if anybody, is going to come at the next meeting and say those lights are no longer leaving the property?
Commissioner,
Without that, we'd be no better off than we are today.
yeah. At this point, I'm going to say that you have my word. If I have to go up and change them myself, I'll do it. Okay. The lights, the aiming of the lights will be rectified. I spoke with the owner. He has no issue with it, so I have no reason to believe that it's not going to get taken care of. I will impress upon him that we have a timeline to do so, and I will get it done, and I will also converse with Mr. Volker, see if there's any possible way of someone from the town stopping out after dark, after we have done something with the lights, and be able to come back to you folks and say, you know, this has in fact been taken care of.
Well, I'd like to do it two ways. I'd like to know when you're gonna do the work, John, and then if that's during the day, there's only, during the week, during the day, especially during the first half of the day, as we know, we only have a part-time zoning enforcement officer. Zoning enforcement officer can actually be out there and witness the work. So I'd start there, okay?
Yeah, Mr. Volker, that's no problem whatsoever. I can get a hold of you and we can coordinate a time. I think in the months that you and I have been dealing with each other, I think that you take me at my word that I am going to get done what I say I'm going to get done. And I think that, I'm very cooperative to whatever the town is looking for. And whether it's Cheshire or Woolkit or any other town I've dealt with, I've always been cooperative. I know that there are, there's rules and regulations and I follow them. So I'll absolutely get a hold of you and we can set up a time, and I'll work with the owner. I'll actually have the owner put me in touch with whoever it is that's going to do the job, and I'll coordinate a time with you, and your zoning people can be out there when it's being done. My only concern is there may be, when I say we, myself and the owner, may want to do this at night so that we can be sure exactly what it is we're doing. So we can be sure that the light is going only where we want it to go. That may have to be something that happens dusk or nighttime. But that being said, I will be in touch with you irregardless, and we will coordinate this one way or another. And before the next meeting, this will be rectified.
Okay. Sharon, we have two more comments.
All right. Mr. Bowman, I see your hand.
We have three comments. 8:05 p.m. The property owner has already shown in the past by his actions that he does not care about his neighbors. I don't believe him. Signed, Tim Bernhardt. Next is 8:08 p.m. He did nothing about something as simple as fix the lighting, even though it was shining in our yard and home. Why should we take his word when it comes to any possible future building and buffers to supposedly protect the beauty of our homes and neighborhood? It's 4 lights, not 2. Signed, Mary House. And at 8.
we lose her?
Sorry, I'm waiting for it to load.
You have-
809.
She's,
Do you hear me?
Yes.
Am I still here?
yep,
Okay. Okay. At 809,
yes.
it reads, why wasn't it done before Mary House? And those are the 3 comments that just came in.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Bowman?
Yes, I think this is fairly simple. I don't think this needs to be put on the town's back. I don't think it needs to be put on our zoning enforcement officer's back to go out there at night. I think a simple certification from an engineer stating the lighting is installed correctly and does not leave the property, and a signature, I think that would probably take care of this situation. And then we have someone to fall back on if that is not the case.
Sounds good to me. Any other comments?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, just very briefly, Mr. Bernhardt, who said that the applicant can't be taken at his word. I, up till this point, haven't had a situation to give my word to anybody, but I did give my word tonight that this will be taken care of. So whatever Mr. Bernhardt is referring to, I had never given my word about anything, or had an occasion to need to, but I'm giving my word that this will be taken care of. I'll be honest with you, Mr. Chairman, I don't know, even if we take care of this, I don't know that satisfies people, but there it is, I guess.
EJ, Woody's got a question.
Mr. Dawson?
Another question, I got a statement. I think that the way Mr. Bowman worded it, it hits it on the head. Nobody has to be responsible, depend on this or that one. Get the licensed lighting engineer to certify that it's done right, and it's over. Everybody's happy. People that are having the problem with the lighting, the applicant, planning is in the town of Cheshire. Everybody's covered, so I think instead of keep redundant this conversation over and over, I think that, as far as I'm concerned, that would do it.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, half or 3/4 of what the gentleman was saying just then, I couldn't understand. If you could give me the gist of what he was saying.
What I heard him say, he agrees with Mr. Bowman, and if he gets a certified engineer to attest to the lights, we don't need to have our enforcement officer out there after dark. So we have someone to fall back on if the lights are not done correctly.
Mr. Chairman, we got one more comment.
Okay.
This is submitted at 812. This is not just about the lights. It's about our homes, our neighborhood, the wildlife. How can anyone make this decision without coming out to our homes and seeing why we love it here? Fondly, Mary House. That's
We
it
all-
for new comments.
Oh, thank you. All the commissioners too are, we can obviously look at the area, and whether it's at night, not at night, I don't think we have permission yet to go on the property, but we can at least drive through Charter Oak and do some investigating on our own before our next meeting. So.
Mr. Kurtz, this is Lieutenant. I did drive through the property. I haven't been into any of the neighbors' yards, so I don't know what they're looking at from where they are, but I have visited the property. We were supposed to state that for the record, and I forgot to do it, so I'm doing it now.
Okay, I am not, but I will, in the next 2 weeks, get myself up there. Okay, thank you. We'll be keeping this public hearing open. Moving on to number 2, I'm going to be.
If I may, open until June 8th for the neighbor's sake. Any comments you want to give us between now and then would be appreciated. We'll get them to you as soon as they come in.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm going to be recusing myself for number 2, so Mr. Strollo, would you please take over?
Thank you, gentlemen. I'm going to sign off.
See you, John.
Hello? Hello?
We hear you, Sean.
Yeah, we're good.
Okay.
Here, Sean.
Kind of stop for a second. Okay, moving on to special permit application, Gina VC Havoc. Is that how you say it?
No, it's Vice Lavisac.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. 8 East Ridge Court, in-home business, section 30, schedule A, paragraph 18B. You want to read something in?
Yes, the special permit application of Gina Weiss Lavasek. I'm
Yes.
sorry. Okay. 324 Greenbrier Drive, Cheshire, Connecticut, 06410 for a home office property located at 8 East Ridge Court, Cheshire, Connecticut, 06410, is generally shown on Assessor's Map number 21, lot number 41 in an R40 zone. Packet information is available for review on the town website homepage under documents distributed or displayed during virtual meetings.
Okay, state your name and address for the record, please.
Sure, it's Gina Weiss Lavasek. I currently reside at 324 Greenbrier Drive in Cheshire, Connecticut.
What was the number of Briar Drive?
324.
324 Briar. Okay, thank you.
Can I?
Mr. Chairman, we
Yep.
have numerous comments that we'd like to read into the record.
Please.
Applicant has seen them. We sent them out to the commission. It's your choice when you want to hear them. So,
Let's hear him first.
okay.
Okay, submitted Friday, May 15th, 10:27 a.m. I do not oppose the buyer of 8 Ridge Court having a home office for her clinical psychology business. As a neighbor, I do not believe it would pose a threat to our children, nor do I believe it would be any more of a COVID threat than any of us in our neighborhood bringing family or friends to our homes. I welcome hard-working new neighbors and look forward to meeting them. Thank you. Signed, Marge Ragazzino. Received May 15th at 11:25 a.m. This is transcribed from a voicemail message. Hi, my name is Chris Ragazzino, and I understand there's a hearing on May 27th at 7:30 p.m. regarding the sale of 8 East Ridge Court, the woman who wants to operate a clinical psychotherapy office out of her home. I live at 27 East Ridge Court, and I just wanted to say I do not oppose of her moving in. I appreciate you taking my comments into consideration. And again, my name is Christine Ragazzino, and I do not oppose of this practice on our street. Next message, submitted May 20th at 10:06 a.m. and also a voicemail received May 20th at 3:17 p.m. Good morning. I have been made aware of a public hearing scheduled for Wednesday, May 27th regarding a permit for allowing a psychologist to purchase a home on East Ridge Court in Cheshire and see patients in her home. I wholly object to allowing this permit. Although I support healthy businesses in our area and would welcome any new neighbor, I think allowing a psychologist to practice in this cul-de-sac residential neighborhood will completely negate the reason why I purchased a house in this lovely neighborhood in Cheshire, which backs up to the Ives Farm Land Trust. Most recently, many young families who have small children moved into this neighborhood. I personally have 2 girls under the age of 10. There are over 15 young children in this neighborhood and more grandchildren that visit during the week who love to play on our isolated street. That is exactly why we paid a premium to live in this neighborhood. She is asking to see 8 patients a day for 2 to 3 days per week. That is up to 24 cars during the week, which will drive into the cul-de-sac and back down the street. In addition, I visited this doctor's website, and she treats patients who suffer from anxiety, PTSD, addiction, and psychological trauma. This is 24 strangers seeking psychological help driving through our neighborhood. I do not feel safe with this situation with my 2 young daughters as well as all of the neighboring children. I would speculate that it may be possible that once the permit has been granted to her, she may close her Middletown office location and continue to see all those patients in her home office, exponentially increasing the traffic through this neighborhood. There are plenty of areas zoned in Cheshire for that sort of activity. This neighborhood is no place for a business like that. I'm also concerned that this will set a precedent for other physicians and professionals who see their customers, patients in their office may choose to conduct their business in our neighborhood. Please consider my thoughts and feelings on this matter and let me know if I can attend a meeting or discuss this with in person with someone. I truly believe this permit will be unsafe for my family and devalue the neighborhood as a whole. Thank you for your time, Matt Godbout. Received Thursday, May 21st, 12:04 a.m. Dear members of Cheshire Planning and Zoning, my name is Joseph A. Picone, DMD. My wife, Carmelina, and I own a house at 36 East Ridge Court, Cheshire, where we live. We moved here from Southington on November 2013. We chose this house not only because it was our dream home, but because of the beautiful cul-de-sac it's located on. We also felt confident in knowing Cheshire's reputation for strong adherence to establishing building and zoning codes, allowing for a secure long-term investment. We recently became quite concerned about the application being submitted by a potential buyer of East Ridge Court, Gina Weiss Lavasek. In particular, Ms. Lavasek is seeking a special permit to allow her to continue her clinical psychology practice at this residence. We unilaterally object to this special permit use without prejudice. The application suggests up to 8 different clients per day will be coming and going from the property for 2 to 3 days per week. There are 15 or so young children that live in the neighborhood, and we believe that this will put them at undue risk. Additionally, we believe this type of use will have a negative impact on our local property values, which will affect the town finances long term. If we wanted to live near a business, we would have bought a home near such a zone. There are many qualified, approved properties for this type of use all over our wonderful town. Why not make use of those resources instead of devaluing ours? I can be available to be present in person or virtually when this matter is considered. They provide their cell phone number. Your prompt attention to this matter is much appreciated. Sincerely yours, Joseph A. Pacone, DMD. Next message received Thursday, May 21st, 9:17 a.m. Addressed to Jeff DiNatale, Cheshire Planning and Zoning Commission. My name is Kathleen Ampancora, and I live and own at 15 East Ridge Court. I'm writing to inform you that I am opposed to the above referenced application. My home is diagonally across the street from 8 East Ridge Court, and I have direct view of this property. I've lived in this neighborhood since 1986 and have enjoyed raising children here in this quiet, family-friendly neighborhood, and now my grandchildren. I feel that approval of this application would invite more people and traffic into our neighborhood and change its atmosphere. It may also set a precedent that would allow for the approval of future businesses, which would further hinder the enjoyment of our neighborhood and possibly affect the sale of our homes in the future. Thank you for your consideration, Kathleen Ampancora. Received Thursday, May 21st, 3:56 p.m. Dear members of the Planning and Zoning Commission, we are writing this letter to oppose the permit request for a clinical psychologist's office at 8 East Ridge Court. Our street is a quiet cul-de-sac with 18 houses on it. Many of the homeowners are young families with small children who enjoy the quiet and safe environment. We feel that an office situation with patients coming and going hourly is not conducive to our street. Our children's safety is highest priority, and we feel this office could impact it in a negative way. We also believe that if this permit were approved, it would potentially open the door for future requests to be approved, which does not bode well in the family neighborhood. We strongly hope this permit will be denied. Thank you, Tom and Diane Scannell. Received Friday, May 22nd, 8:45 p.m. This is dated May 22nd. We live in a very quiet, low traffic neighborhood, and the only traffic that would come through here are local residents and people with specific destination here, and we like it that way. We live directly across the street from Gina's driveway and would be most affected by the traffic and her practice, and I would be the first to be aware that if there were any issues. We live in an older neighborhood with narrow streets, no shoulders or sidewalks, so if traffic was an issue, it would send up red flags, and I would be the first to be aware that it has not been a problem in the 12 years she has practiced here. Her clients are always quiet and respectful coming and going. They do not speed or disrupt the neighborhood whatsoever. Our neighborhood is in the Highland School walkers area with heavy foot traffic and many other walkers and children playing outside. In 12 years, we have never seen any excess traffic, accidents, or concerns from the traffic flow of her practice. She works part-time, several days a week out of her home, and the remainder of her time is at her Middletown practice. She does not work 40 hours a week out of the home, so traffic is at a minimum. It is like she has company coming to visit with anyone else on the block. She manages her clients quite well, never overbooking. She books one at a time, and they always park in her driveway and discreetly walk around to the side of her house to enter. We rarely see them. Should an occasional client come early, they discreetly park at the side and quietly wait until the current client leaves. Her clientele are always quiet, respectful, coming and going. In 2008, when she approached us regarding opening a part-time practice in her home, I was very concerned over the type of clientele that would be coming into her neighborhood, into our neighborhood. Our safety, the safety of our children, and the amount of traffic if there were any bottlenecking of parked cars, and also hours of people coming and going. Gina's daughters were infants during these early years of the practice, and they are now 10 and 13. She assured me she would never allow unsavory clientele in her home and jeopardize her own family. If she ever had concerns over questionable clientele, she explained that they would only be seen at the Middletown office. She's very reliable, trustworthy, and after 12 years, I see her word to be true. I would like to close by saying we have never had any issues with her practice here out of her home, and it would not be and it has not been intrusive to our neighborhood. They are a lovely family, and Gina and Rob have raised two beautiful, intelligent, polite, and actively involved girls. They would be an asset to any neighborhood and will be truly missed. Sincerely, Mrs. Batik, and she's at 331 Greenbrier Drive. Next message, Saturday, May 23rd, received at 9:35 a.m., and also a voicemail received the same day covering the same information. To the members of the Planning and Zoning Committee, my name is Paris Godbout, and I have owned our home at 35 East Ridge Court for almost 8 years. I am writing in strong opposition to awarding of a home office permit to potential home buyer Dr. Weiss Lavasek at 8 East Ridge Court. This is a dead-end street with 15 young children and multiple houses with visiting grandchildren. Our neighborhood is one in which children ride bikes and freely run from yard to yard playing with each other. A home office that services people seeking psychological treatment poses a safety hazard to our young children due to both the increase in traffic and the nature of the client's mental health issues. Unlike Dr. Weiss Lavasek's current home, 325 Greenbrier Drive, this is not a through road. Inevitably, cars with drivers who are not residents of the street drive all the way to the end and turn around in the cul-de-sac. This poses a danger for children who currently live here. According to Dr. Weiss Lavasek's website, she treats depression, anxiety, addiction, and specializes in the psychological treatment of trauma. Would the members of the Planning and Zoning Committee, especially those with young children, like to invite 24 strangers per week who are suffering from these issues into their neighborhood? Dr. Weiss Lavasek's work is admirable, but it belongs in an office building, not in a residential neighborhood with young children. At this point, Dr. Weiss Lavasek estimates that her home office will serve upwards of 24 patients a week. Once a permit is granted, will the permit limit the number of patients or days per week that Dr. Weiss Lavasek can see patients? Does this permit limit her patients from driving up the cul-de-sac and turning around when they exit our dead-end street? Does this permit limit the type of patients she seeks to serve? Who does this permit serve? Does it help Dr. Weiss Lavasek's patients to see her in her own home? Could her patients just as easily receive her health services from an office in Cheshire on a commercially zoned property? Does it help the people who currently live at East Ridge Court? Or does this permit only serve to make things more convenient for Dr. Weiss Lavasek? Thank you for your time and consideration. Sincerely, Paris Godbout. Received Saturday, May 23rd, 1:46 p.m. Hello, my name is Teresa Goncalves, and I live at Greenbrier Drive, Cheshire, Connecticut. I'm Gina Weiss Lavasek's neighbor. We've been living here since 2012. My understanding is that she's asking for a permit to do her practice in her new home if it gets approved. Since we've been here, her practice never has impact on us in any way. No traffic, no cars in the street, no speeding. We don't notice at all that she's working from home. We will miss them as neighbors, but if they want to move, I hope it gets approved for them. Thank you, Teresa Goncalves. Next was an email that was forwarded, and I do not have a timestamp on it, nor a complete name. It says, my concerns are the same as your concerns. I too had a list of questions I wanted answers to. So to be fair to Gina, I called her directly. She was more than willing to ease my concerns about the type of client she sees in her home, as well as issues about cars going up and down the street, parking, and a sign, there will be none. She's available and willing to speak directly with anyone who has concerns. I also called one of her neighbors to see if there were any issues with Gina having a home office in the neighborhood over the past 12 years. She told me there were none. While I am one of the listing agents, we would love to see a sale sign. I am more importantly a resident of East Ridge Court. I've lived here for over 30 years and absolutely love it and do not plan on going anywhere anytime soon. I feel that it is always best to deal directly with the source if possible. Gina is amenable to speak with anyone of you, and my suggestion would be for you to reach out to her. Having the facts is the best way to reach an opinion. And that's signed, Jerry. Received Saturday, May 23rd, 5:49 p.m. To whom it may concern. We've lived at 350 Greenbrier Drive, Cheshire, Connecticut for 43 years. Gina Weiss Lavasek and her husband Rob are our next door neighbors. Since Gina opened her professional office in 2008, we have not had any problem during these 12 years. Her business creates very little traffic and does nothing to disrupt the neighborhood. At worst, it's just a car in the driveway. Our street remains safe, quiet, and attractive neighborhood for all residents, including children. Gina and Rob and their daughters, Isabel and Chloe, are excellent, friendly neighbors who would be an asset to any community. Signed, Martin and Angela Kraus. Received Monday, May 25th, 10:33 a.m. We have discussed the application for home psychotherapy office of Ms. Weiss Falasek at 8 East Ridge Court and must comment that we oppose such an office. Our opposition primarily involves the unknowns with regards to the safety of our children that such an office may present. Our home is directly adjacent to 8 East Ridge Court, and therefore the comings and goings of people involved will be noticeable from our home. Our driveways are approximately 30 feet apart, and both driveways are visible to each other. Presently, there are many more children in this neighborhood than in the recent past. We have 2 young girls that play in the driveway for many hours during the day. Many children walk and ride their bikes up and down the street. It only takes one incident to turn that into a catastrophe. We must lean to the side of caution in this instance. Signed, Bill and Charlotte Blair. Next comment received Monday, May 25th, 5:13 p.m., and also a voicemail received the same day. Dear Planning and Zoning Commission member, I am very upset and frustrated to hear that a potential buyer is wanting to run a business in our neighborhood. This buyer will bring much unwanted traffic and strangers to our street. What if her business is small now but starts to grow? The traffic and people will increase. Other people then can open a business out of their homes also. We all know each other in the neighborhood and watch out for mischief. Our street is safe, child-friendly, and quiet. This is a neighborhood, not a street for businesses. This is where we live and where we want to relax out in rural Connecticut. We paid our hard-earned money for a home out here and do not want it ruined with this business. These are our homes. Please listen to our plea and do not allow this to happen. Sincerely, Gina Borgman. Received Monday, May 25th, 5:37 p.m. to the Planning and Zoning Commission. The rear property boundary of 324 Greenbrier Drive abuts the rear boundary of our property located at 309 Cedar Drive. We lived at 309 Cedar for more than 20 years. Gina has had her home office at 324 Briar for over 11 years. There's been no time during that period that we've noticed any difference with respect to traffic, number of cars, speed, parking, etc., noise in the area, or people wandering the area from before Gina and her family moved in comparison to afterwards. There have been no noticeable changes with respect to the neighborhood due to Gina's home office. We have never even noticed one coming or going from the property. The fact that there's a home office is truly not noticeable. We support their application for a special permit to continue to allow Gina to maintain an office in her new home. They are an asset to this community. Respectfully submitted, Guy and Alice Darter. Received Tuesday, May 26th at 7:52 a.m. and again Wednesday, May 27th at 2:49 p.m. to the members of the Planning and Zoning Committee. My wife Nancy and I recently became aware of a special permit application quoted above to be considered by the committee during the May 27, 2020 virtual special meeting public hearing at 7:30. We would like to go on record as stating that we strongly oppose the granting of the special permit, which would allow for an applicant to maintain a professional business for the purpose of conducting a clinical psychology practice at the residential premises located and known as 8 East Ridge Court, Cheshire, Connecticut 06410. The granting of the special permit would be totally inappropriate for this location as stated in the town zoning rules with regard to R40 zoning. It should be noted that in accordance with the town zoning rules as stated in the publication Town of Cheshire, Connecticut Zoning Regulations, which were adopted April 8, 1970 to be effective as of April 24, 1970 in Section 30, Schedule A, Permitted Uses, the document specifically states on line 49 that professional offices are simply not permitted in areas that are zoned R40. During the past 35 years of property ownership on East Ridge Court, and being one of the few remaining original owners who reside on this quiet residential street, my wife and I can attest to the cyclical change of the rural suburban residential neighborhood forming a desirable cul-de-sac for privacy and limited outside through traffic. These are some of the virtues and tranquility that originally drew us to our street, and these qualities are still attracting the youthful families who cherish the same tranquility, peacefulness, and safety for our children as I did for my own. In more than 3 decades, we have seen at least 3 cycles of young families with young children who now, especially during this COVID-19 pandemic, are actively playing outside in a healthy, unspoiled environment on our quiet cul-de-sac. And this I can say, like we've never witnessed in the past. It's fabulous to see all these kids playing outside on the block after school. I fear that the safety and security we currently enjoy could be put at considerable risk if this special permit is inappropriately issued. Besides the additional traffic in this quiet residential neighborhood, there's a component of inadvertently introducing strangers to the neighborhood who may cause feelings of unease in the residents who reside here, the parents whose young children play freely on the street. It becomes obvious that the proposed enterprise is not in accordance with public convenience or welfare. Thank you in advance for allowing us to voice our opinion in this pressing matter. Respectfully submitted, Jeff and Nancy Schuster. Next comment received Tuesday, May 26th at 10:39 p.m. To whom it may concern. I'm writing on behalf of Gina Weiss Lavasek, my neighbor on Greenbrier Drive. Gina has maintained a home office at 324 Greenbrier Drive for the past 12 years, during which we have noticed no negative impact on our neighborhood. There's been no increase in traffic or any safety concerns due to her clients. Additionally, the Lavasek family has maintained and enhanced their property, and there is no discernible evidence of business being conducted out of the home. This speaks to Gina's respect for the neighborhood and her ability to balance personal and professional responsibilities. Respectfully submitted, Adam and Samantha Rosenberg. Comment received Tuesday, May 26, 10:46 p.m. Dear Planning and Zoning Commission, I'm very upset to find that our neighborhood is under consideration to be rezoned for a home business. A close neighbor received a letter from Gina Weiss Lavasek informing them of her intentions to run a business out of a potential home that she's seeking to buy. My family and I have just moved to this neighborhood last year. We love the feel of this very child-friendly and quiet neighborhood with no traffic. We have 2 young children that love seeing all the neighborhood kids hang out. Our street is very attractive with children riding bikes, playing, walking to the school bus. This is very worrisome to know that complete strangers would be constantly driving and parking in our neighborhood. This would give them close access to our children. I believe this rezoning would only benefit Gina financially and ruin the neighborhood we love. I don't want any extra cars or strangers driving around where our kids play. The zoning would not only allow her to run a business, but would also open the door for anyone else to run a business from their home. There could be another business who decides they want to set up shop, and this would bring more unwanted traffic and people. Gina's business could grow exponentially and add even more stress to our neighborhood. Ultimately, this area could explode with new home businesses, not just in our neighborhood, but also the surrounding neighborhoods. I ask that you listen to the voice of the neighborhood and deny this permit. It's not fair that one person can change the dynamic of our well-loved neighborhood. Thank you, Brian Borgman. Next comment received Wednesday, May 27th, 4:33 p.m. Hi, my name is Ralph Mezite. I have a home at 23 East Ridge Court. I have lived at this address from 1985 until 2010. Since 2010, I have rented my property. I have read the letter that Gina Weiss Lavasek sent. It seems she already has an established business in a residential neighborhood for a number of years. I do not have any issues with this special permit as long as it keeps within the guidelines of 2 to 3 days. Thank you, Ralph Mezite. Received Wednesday, May 27th, 4:58 p.m. To whom it may concern. I'm the owner of 8 East Ridge Court here in Cheshire. I am writing regarding the special permit of Gina Weiss Lavasek for a home office on the above address, which is currently the home in which I reside. As a resident of Cheshire since 1985 and in the same home, my wife and I have decided to move to a warmer climate. That being said, I wanted to sell my home to a responsible, caring family that will maintain the property in the same tradition as I have. Thus, my looking into Dr. Weiss Lavasek, I found a caring, responsible, professional individual who would be a nice addition to the neighborhood. I wish her only the best. Dennis and Pamela Matvis. Received Wednesday, May 27th, 7:50 p.m. I live directly across the street from 8 East Ridge Court, and I am also one of the realtors selling this home. I met Gina and her husband while showing the house and found them to be a lovely couple. Because of the situation I am in, I made sure I called Gina directly and asked questions to educate myself on the type of clients she would be seeing at her home office, driving concerns as we are neighbors in regards to additional traffic on our quiet street and parking. Gina assured me that her clients would be driving as far as her drive early, must be driveway early and not up and around the cul-de-sac. She explained the type of client she would be seeing, and after talking to her, I felt comfortable with her and what I was told. I also spoke with one of her neighbors about the experience she had with Gina having a home office on Briar Court over the past 12 years, and she assured me that there were never any issues and no concerns about additional traffic in her neighborhood. After doing my due diligence, I'm not opposed to her having a home office across the street from me. Sincerely, Geraldine Rock. And that is it for comments.
Suzanne, could you do me a favor? I mean, I think Rock's comment was the one that you had that didn't have an attachment to it. It sounded the same. The other one you didn't have, there was a timestamp.
The last one that I just read?
Yeah.
At 7:50 p.m. tonight.
Oh, that's 7:50 p.m. tonight? Okay, there was.
Yes.
Sounded the same. Okay, and then what I want to know is, so how many? There's 18 houses. How many neighbors did we get that were against the application? I opposed it. I counted 10, but I don't know if I was right on that number.
So I did not tally these up. I just arranged them in sequence of when they were received, but let me do a count.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Okay. Any questions from the commission members before we want to go ask the applicant any questions? Mr. Picado?
So with this special permit, is there a way to limit how many days or how many customers she can see?
Bill, you want to set in on that one?
Well, it's a little difficult. You're really going to base your approval on her representations in her application. So if she's saying that, she's asking for it only on a certain number of days, that's really the best way to do that. It's hard to judge.
But there is a possibility that if something happens and she has to shut down her business, I forgot what town it's in or where it's located, that all those clients can possibly come to her home location.
Lou, you had a question too, didn't you?
That's not how I read her application, Rob. Her application says what she's going to do, but I have something I have to read into the record first. Sean, please. Give me a minute, okay?
Yep.
Hold on. This comes as we know, EJ has disqualified himself. The town attorney advises that he can ask a question through staff, and this came to us at 5:41 p.m. and I'd like to read that into the record. Dear Mr. Volker, in a letter dated March 17th, 2020, the applicant explains the scope of her in-home business and why it should be allowed by special permit in a residential neighborhood. While reading the letter, I became suspicious of the word expected, which was used a few times in the letter. To me, the definition of expected leaves the door open for things to change. For example, when the Cheshire Planning and Zoning Commission writes motions, it does not use the term expected that the applicant will follow the regulations. The applicant must follow the regulations. The use of the word expectant in the applicant's narrative leaves me a little suspicious of the applicant's intentions. Thank you for taking my question. Sincerely, Earl Kurtz III, 31 East Ridge Court, Cheshire, Connecticut, 06420. Mr. Chairman, just generally, I would suggest you base your decision on what the applicant is asking for. To suggest somehow that, you're going to tell her what's best for her in terms of hours and things, I don't think you should do that. I think you should base it on what you see in front. If you have confidence that this is in conformance to your regulations, that's one thing. If you don't, that's another. But the idea that somehow you can change the hours and the things that are in there, you should base your decision on the testimony of the applicant, which includes the narrative that they submitted with the application which we gave you.
Okay,
I know in the past, we've had other special permits for people having businesses in their homes. We always ask what kind of traffic there's gonna be, how many cars or trucks or whatnot are coming into the driveway. We do that for any of the small businesses. I don't see why I can't ask that. I don't know, we can base our decision on whether we approve this or not, knowing what we think can happen or
well,
feel for
we're gonna go to the applicant in a minute, Rod, but Lou had one question before we go to her.
Yeah, on that very point we're discussing, I mean, I'm looking at section 40.5, that's in our special permit regulations. And section 40.5 says, in granting any special permit, the Planning and Zoning Commission shall attach such additional conditions and safeguards as are deemed necessary to protect the neighborhood, such as but not limited to the following. And there's a bunch of them listed, but one is 40.5.4, limitation of size, number of occupants, methods or time of operation or extent of facilities. So it seems to me that there's room there based on the evidence. I don't think we can make this up out of whole cloth, certainly. But if the applicant represents that she only sees people 2 days a week or 3 days a week, 8 a day or whatever the number is, it seems to me that we could attach a condition such as that to the permit. I think that that's authorized by the regulation. Bill may disagree, the town attorney may disagree, but it seems fairly apparent to me that that's a possibility.
Okay, now I want to go back to Eugene. I'm sorry I want to get their kind of feel for it. Go ahead and now you have a lot of information and give an explanation of what you want to do.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. I'm coming before the Zoning Commission to request a special permit to operate a home office at the residence of 8 East Ridge Court here in Cheshire. This will be my second time in front of the commission, with my first being 2008. At that time, the commission allowed for me to run a home office at 324 Greenbrier Drive. Since that time, I've continued to see clients for 12 years. The residence at 324 Greenbrier Drive is a small neighborhood. On the street, there's 15 homes. Of those 15 homes, there's approximately 13 young children from the ages of 0 to 16. During my 12 years, I've seen those kids grow. I've seen some graduate high school who are no longer there. This doesn't include grandchildren of some of the older, senior citizens in the neighborhood. Keep in mind, my neighborhood is also located right behind Highland School, and we are in the Walkers district, so it is heavy foot traffic. For my neighbors to say that they have not had any issue over the last 12 years with my office speaks to the safety, speaks to traffic, speaks to, quite honestly, the clientele that I see. There's never been any threats to security, safety issues, changes to the neighborhood, or complaints by my neighbors. No additional risks have been noted. There's been no emergency calls to the home, emergency personnel requested for assessment or evaluation for any unstable clients. And this is consistent with what all adjacent neighbors had stated in the correspondence prior to today's meeting. No changes have been made to the structure of the home. No signs are evident of the practice. And other than one car in the driveway at a time, the business itself is invisible to the community. The practice, let me tell you just a little bit about my practice. It's part-time, 2 to 3 days per week, and it has remained that way for the past 12 years. I do not intend on increasing that. I'm 47 years old. I will be looking towards retirement, and I am not at all looking at increasing my caseload. I certainly can't convince people otherwise, but that's where I'm at. This creates an additional 8 cars on the street, 1 car per hour of traffic on the street a day. 8 East Ridge Court is only 2 homes in from the main throughway. It is not anticipated that this is going to create any additional traffic for the remainder of the homes further down in the cul-de-sac, and that will impact the neighbors in any negative way. Additionally, before I even see a client, I submit to every single one of them before their appointment a letter stating the policies of my practice, which includes safe driving, parking, no loitering, how they're going to enter into and how they're going to exit. I don't work with groups. I work with 1 client at a time. Additionally, I'd like to dispel any misconceptions about outpatient individual private practice. I do not intend on establishing a clinic in a residential area. I do not treat severely psychologically disturbed individuals. We are living in a time that is creating anxiety and trauma for our community, And I am a mother first and foremost and would never bring anyone into my home that is a risk to my children, my family, or the families around us. Outpatient therapy is only warranted when a client is able to function in the community as a whole, very limited disorder in their life. The best predictor of future aggressive behavior is past behaviors. Therefore, I am active and extensively screening for a home office at inquiry. My expertise, training, and skill in assessment help me determine if a client would be appropriate for outpatient care. Clients with severe emotional impairment, chronic legal history, chronic mental illness would not be appropriate for outpatient and have always been referred to a more structured environment such as a clinic setting, intensive outpatient, or inpatient hospitalization. And that happens prior to me ever meeting them. Indicators of this level of risk would not be appropriate for an outpatient level of care, and more importantly, not appropriate for individual therapy at a home office. As I see it, the responsibility is on me to determine well beyond an outpatient level of care, but the appropriateness of a client to be seen in an in-home office setting. Furthermore, my clientele, I treat a wide range of high-functioning individuals who are from the Cheshire community. These are already your neighbors. This is who I'm treating. Psychological services are provided for local residents who suffer from anxiety, depression, and more specifically, who are victims of local tragedies. My practice has become recognized for the specialty treatment of trauma and trauma-related disorders. I treat first responders, police officers, healthcare workers, including doctors, nurses, EMT, other mental health clinicians. I also treat other professionals like teachers, lawyers, and state officials. Different from a traditional office setting, the home office provides a certain privacy and allure for those individuals who may require additional anonymity based on their highly recognized positions they might have in the community, or the stigma that the trauma that they've endured, specifically the local tragedies. They would much rather blend in with the surroundings rather than be seen walking into an office with the name easily recognized on the outside of the building. Since practicing in a home office for the past 12 years, I have unintentionally developed a practice that a more traditional office location would jeopardize. I would like to state that I do not provide any treatment to offenders of any type, and they would not be appropriate for an outpatient private practice level of care. I do not intend to increase this practice size or scope, and I will commit to this for the foreseeable future. As for my Middletown office, I don't intend on shutting that office. I guess I could have in the last 12 years, and I haven't. And I don't intend on it because it offers me a very different clientele and, quite honestly, the opportunity to see someone who I otherwise wouldn't see in Cheshire. So it actually helps me rather than hurts me. So I don't intend on closing that office at all. Other factors I just like to comment on are, although I'm not a real estate agent, the home we purchased in 2004 has increased in its value since its purchase. We purchased it at the peak of the real estate boom and are happy to say that with the improvements and the maintenance of the property, we anticipate that the listing will be higher than that when we purchased it. Also, homes built in the neighborhood with similar square footage and layout have sold at higher rates than what was originally purchased. It would appear that having a home office has not negatively affected home values in our area. Furthermore, the home in question at East Ridge Court has been listed at $100,000 less than it was listed in 2017. I don't believe that the change in the listing is related to any variable other than variable rate of real estate today. Regarding setting a precedence for home office employment, I have not been made aware, nor has any neighbor began a home office establishment since my special permit was approved in 2008. It would not appear that the approval for a home office has set any such precedent for others in the area. In closing, I am in a unique situation as I'm able to provide you with evidence and validity regarding the safety, disruptions, and impact my practice has had on the community. To date, I can confidently state that my practice has not created any additional disruptions, traffic, or safety issues for the community, and in a neighborhood that has a higher rate of children and foot traffic than that on 8 East Ridge Court. As current neighbors who live next door, directly across the street, and adjacent properties have stated, my practice has been invisible to them, and they have had no issue, concern, or problems. I ask that this commission take the history of my practice for the past 12 years into consideration when making your determination for the special permit. You allowed me in 2008 to operate in a residential neighborhood, and I've proven dependable, trustworthy, and diligent to the safety and well-being of my children, my family, and those around me. Thank you for your time.
Commission members. Commission members? Mr. Talley.
Did you expect, I have a question.
Let me go first.
Who has a question?
John Cardaris.
Oh, yeah,
good.
come on in. Go ahead. I can't see you.
Yeah. Do you expect any changes in your practice now, from your neighborhood now to your new neighborhood?
No, there's no reason.
Okay. Is that it, John?
That's it.
Okay. Mr. Talley?
Bill, this question's for you. So I know that we've approved businesses, cottage businesses where there's no folks coming into the house or no business being conducted from the outside. Do you have any idea how many private homes in Cheshire currently have, whether it's a doctor's office, attorney's office, or some type of business that people are coming to visit on location?
No, I don't. We haven't dealt with many of them since I've been here. We approved the one that she's currently in. There's only a few that we've done since I've been here. I mean, the whole nature of that has changed. Not many, medical professionals practice out of their house for various reasons. Insurance is one of them. And the whole nature of the medical profession has changed, where they're encouraged to affiliate with hospitals and they stay close to the hospital and they all practice together and so forth. So we don't see a lot of that anymore. And there's probably people practicing that we don't know about, Jeff, too. There's probably other professionals, accountants and lawyers and things, but generally, there's not many. There's some, but not many.
Thanks.
Mr. Picado?
Would the applicant be willing to set a limit on how many clients she sees a week? That we could write that into the special permit application like Mr. Commissioner Tedisco mentioned?
Sure, I'm happy to keep what I've already stated, which is up to 3 days a week, 8 clients a day. I don't see anyone before 8 o'clock in the morning, and I don't go any later than 6:30 at night. My last client is at 5:30. In my Middletown office, I do see clients later, and that is part of the reason why I hold on to that office, because I can see clients later.
Thank you. I would like to see that added, and I would be for this application if that is possible.
Yeah,
Mr. Dawson has a question.
I just want to remind you that it's a special permit. So you can request, the commission members can request whatever they want. It's a special permit.
I have a technical question. Bill, this is
Sorry.
this in a in-law apartment over the garage. The garage is not an accessory building, I guess, is it?
No.
No.
Well, I was asking.
It's in the home.
Bill.
It's in the home, Matt. The regulation limits the amount of square footage that she can, and she's well within the limit prescribed by the regulation.
No, but right for the first part, I'm inclined to be in favor of this. I do think the limitation is reasonable, but the regulation starts off a professional or business office or customary home enterprise in a dwelling unit and not in an accessory building. And this is in the garage.
Right. You couldn't put it in the garage. Right. That's exactly right. It has to be in the home that they live in. That's correct.
Well, that's my question. I thought that there was testimony that this is actually in an in-law apartment over the garage.
It's not separate.
No, but that's not a
But it's attached.
Yeah, it's attached.
Lou, if it's attached, it's part of the home. What that regulation refers to is you can't have a detached structure and occupy. If it's the garage is attached, it's all part of the same dwelling unit by code.
If that's the case, then I'm satisfied. I just wanted to, because that is important, because we could be dealing with other buildings in other applications, but this is actually attached, so it's not an issue.
Correct.
Mr. Bowman, go ahead. Mr. Bowman, you got unmute.
I did.
Okay.
I have a couple of questions. The question I have, would you also stipulate that there will be no employees?
Oh, absolutely. I'm a one-woman show.
Okay. And the other concern I have is handicap accessibility.
Yeah, I'm gonna, because there's some stairs that go up to this in-law suite I have to put in a chairlift. That's the only thing that I'm gonna put in. I have 2 clients right now who have some mobility issues, but they're not in wheelchairs. They use walkers or they have a difficult time with stairs. So that's the only thing that I would be adding is a chairlift.
And also, would you stipulate that there will be no high-risk patients being seen in your home, in this new neighborhood?
100%. There will be no high-risk clients seen in my home office.
Thank you.
Any other members? Questions? RJ or Casey? No? Okay. I have a couple of quick questions. Since you've been at your location on Greenbrier, have you ever had to call the police to your house?
No.
No? Okay. Have you ever called the fire department or an ambulance?
Not for clients. I called the fire department once because my stove caught on fire, but not for clients.
But did you ever have to have anybody go away in an ambulance?
No.
My concern for your location where you're going is the remoteness of it for a safety aspect. Where you are at right now, you're behind the police station, behind the ambulance, in the center of town near the fire department. For me, my thing is safety, and I feel that if there ever is a problem, where you are going to be located is going to be harder to access than it is, it takes I'm on the north end myself. It takes a long time for the fire trucks to get there because there's not a station. It takes a long time for the ambulance to get there. It takes a long time for the police department to get there. So I have a harder time with the safety aspect of it. Understanding that you are limited on your thing, I always feel that is something with a home office that we need to consider safety-wise. So.
And I appreciate that. The one thing that I guess made us more interested in this particular property was the fact that it is pretty close to, is it Cheshire Street? I'm not real familiar with the formal names of major streets.
Yep.
It's only 2 houses in, and that's actually pretty close to Johnson. So those are 2 major roads that, if need be, there's no, squirrely little back roads that, traffic would have to go through to get there.
It's still 4 miles from the ambulance to so I'm just saying, I live on the north end. I get it. I just, that's my hardest thing for the application.
Okay.
Of it. Okay. Anyone else, any other commission members? Mr. Bowman, go ahead.
I just want to be sure I heard correctly that it will basically be 3 days a week, 3 patients a day. Did you say that? Did I understand that correctly?
No, I said 8.
8 patients.
8 patients a day, 3 days a week.
I'm sorry. I
8 patients a day, 3 days a week.
Okay, thank you. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
That's 24 a week.
Yeah.
All right. Mr. Bricato, you have a question? No? Okay. Anything else have to be read into the record, Bill?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, we did just receive some additional comments. Suzanne will be reading them in.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, received at 8:45. Comment is, I did not send that first letter signed Jerry. I sent that to my neighbors. Someone else must have forwarded it to you. My only letter to you was the one I sent tonight. Regards, Jerry Rock.
Okay.
Received at 8:50. If this commission is having a hard time enforcing a simple lighting issue as was demonstrated by the previous applicant, how can we expect any reliable enforcement of hours of operation for this type of business in a residential neighborhood as ours? That's from Joseph Bacone. Received at 8:56 p.m. Who is benefiting from this permit business besides her? There was already plenty of area zoned for this type of practice. This neighborhood is not. Most of the positive comments are from people who may be motivated by her moving out of her current neighborhood. Jerry Rock is the real estate agent selling the house, and her comments should be eliminated from consideration, and her comments were announced twice. The comments of the current resident of 8 East Ridge Court should be eliminated from discussion. We would love to have her and her family live here, not her business. Matt Godbout. Received at 8:59. Who is going to enforce any limits? That's signed Joe Pacone. Received at 9 p.m. 324 Briarwood Drive is not a dead end. It's a through street where clients can take a left or right when they leave her driveway without reaching a dead end. I think it's great that some of her current neighbors support her home office, but it's clear that a vast majority of people on East Ridge Court do not support this. The bottom line is that this will, as a fact, increase traffic of non-residents on our street. Does Dr. Vice Lavasek disagree? Who will keep track of the number of clients she sees if the permit is granted? How will that be enforced other than simply written on a piece of paper? And that is from Paris Godbout. And we received 2 letters, and they address the members of the Wetlands Commission. We've been residents of 12 East Ridge Court for 30 years. It's a fully residential, quiet, charming cul-de-sac with no drive-through traffic. The special permit that is being requested by Gina Vice Lavasek for an in-home psychotherapy clinic allowing her to see patients with psychological problems is extremely troubling to us. As she stated in her application, patients suffer from psychological trauma, anxiety, depression, and PTSD. Not just an in-home office, but people with trauma coming to a street which does not have any drive-through traffic. A practice of this nature is normally conducted in a traditional commercial office setting as opposed to a residential setting on a dead-end street. We have grave concerns regarding our safety and the safety in the neighborhood, especially related to teenage patients with these issues. Prior to determining the extent of emotional or mental health problems, which may be aggressive or severe emotional impairment, they would first need to be evaluated in the in-home office, but before they are referred elsewhere. Although Gina Vice Lavasek claims there have been no incidents of threat to safety in the past, but the element of uncertainty remains. There's a risk that future mishaps or unforeseen events could occur that would affect the safety of the neighborhoods and children. This is a major concern to us and is extremely troubling. The application for the in-home clinic also states the need for privacy and anonymity of her patients, especially for those that are in high-profile positions. This is not conducive to that, since there's a constant flow of parents and children going daily to and from the bus stop that is located near the subject house. The business would cause increased influx of traffic next door, with at least 24 strangers with psychological problems driving in and out of the cul-de-sac all day, 3 days a week. Children would be walking past the house to the bus stop daily, facing the additional traffic. We, as senior citizens, would like to bring your attention that we have little grandkids living with us. We would constantly have to worry about their safety while they played outside and would not want any mishap or unforeseen event to occur that would endanger them or anyone else in the neighborhood. There is no guarantee of future safety. The granting of this permit would cause us a great deal of anxiety and affect our peace of mind, which we do not need as senior citizens. We would like to preserve the quiet nature of our charming street. The granting of this permit would change the entire dynamics of the neighborhood now and for the future. As owners of the home next door to the subject property, we would appreciate that a special permit not be granted. Sincerely, Mishbeh Vindi, MD, and Nazim Vindi. And then there is also an addendum from the same authors that say, we would like to add the following to the letter that we have just sent. Number 1, patients from neighboring towns, as stated in the application, coming to a family-oriented neighborhood poses grave safety concerns. Number 2, granting of the permit would enable her to see 5 patients a day in the future if she deems necessary. 5 days a week in the future if she deems necessary. 3, a home is one of the primary investments a person makes. This type of business would have a negative impact on the value of the homes on East Ridge. 4, approval would set a precedent for future homeowners being granted permits for other or similar businesses, increasing traffic and strangers to the street. Hence, we strongly oppose and object to this permit being granted and would appreciate your consideration in this matter. Sincerely, Mishbeh Vindi, MD, and Nazim Vindi. And we also have new emails that are just coming in. Give me a moment just to open these up. This one just received at 9:09. Please count the number of letters received from people on East Ridge Court who oppose this permit for the record. And the next is comment received 9:50. I understand that Gina helps people and I appreciate that. I am a nurse practitioner myself. However, she cannot control other people's actions. The way the world is these days, many people are taking time bombs. I want to live in a place that I feel safe and my kids are safe. Gina Borgman. And up until these last comments that just came in, there was a total of 13 letters. 9 were against, 4 were in support, and that is just for East Ridge Court itself, not for the other neighborhoods, and a total of 18 houses on East Ridge Court. Those numbers are now different with some of this new information that has come in.
Question.
Okay. Go ahead, Gina.
I just want to question how many of those came from the same house? How many of those letters came from the same residence?
Yes, some did come from the same residence, so I did not factor in different addresses. It was just tallying how many on the street were for and how many were against, and I did not break down how many individual homes there were.
Okay. Any other commission members, any questions? Mr.
I
Anderson.
mean,
Oh, I'm sorry, Lou.
Yeah. Oh.
go ahead, RJ.
Okay. But just a point of clarification. So back in 2008, we more or less approved the same application for Greenbrier Court, correct?
Greenbrier Drive, yes.
Greenbrier Drive. Okay, thank you. That's it.
Go ahead, Lou.
Well, I guess since we started counting the numbers, I mean, I guess it might be nice to know. I don't know what we do with it exactly, but how many of the houses on the street said no to it? We had nine letters, but that might not have been 9 houses. And also, we maybe would take out the ones from the real estate agent and the current occupant. But it might be nice to know that. I'm not so sure that I'm going to let that change my mind, but I might. I mean, it's certainly concerning when you get this many comments.
Thank you, Lou. Okay. Anyone else?
Go
ahead, Gina.
There was a question that someone had asked, which was, there's a couple of them that I wanted to respond to for the neighbors who, when I sent the letter out, I sent also saying, if you had any concerns, please call me. I am more than happy to talk to you ahead of time, and not any of them called. And I can respect their desire to, keep it professional and not do that. But, I also put in there, they can talk to any of my current neighbors. Again, they didn't take that and they didn't take me up on that. But if they're really concerned about the safety, I would think that they would want to know what the current level of risk has been in my current neighborhood, who the clients are that I'm seeing. And again, I'm seeing their neighbors. I can't stress that enough. Cheshire is not without tragedy. So I'm seeing their neighbors and I'm not seeing the offenders. I'm seeing the victims. So.
Understandably. Okay. Anyone else? I need to know who else is on. I mean, I know that for members, so it's myself and Woody and Matt.
Yeah, Sean, we're missing Mr. Linder and Mr. Salmont.
Okay, Jeff, AC, Rob, and RJ. Wait, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then
Disco.
Who else is on? Is Kadiris on still?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yes, I am.
I don't see. I'm sorry. Okay, so we do have 9.
Yeah, we have seven commissioners and 2 alternates.
Okay, I just want to make sure because I on my screen I don't have Mr. Kadiris, so miss him. So I don't know why, but okay. Go ahead, Gina.
There's one more thing. Someone had asked, I'm remembering the question, someone had asked who's going to enforce it. And I'll go back to what I stated. We as psychologists, in predicting behavior, we look at past patterns. I would ask everyone to look at my past 12 years. If I haven't done it, I'm not going to do it. If I haven't exceeded the hours of my operation, I'm not going to. If I haven't brought in high-risk clients, it's not going to happen because I'm actually getting even more skilled at being able to assess high risk over time. So if it hasn't happened, it's not going to happen. And I get that there's always the random possibility that random things can happen, but in looking at how do we predict behavior, we look at patterns. So I would ask people to look at my pattern.
Thank you. I want to leave the hearing open because we don't have everything from all the neighbors read into the bill. Is that okay?
We got 3 or 4 more that just came in. What do you mean? We've read everything in. It's up to you.
We have still
I
more.
think keeping it open is fine.
Yeah, I mean, I keep it open.
For what purpose, though? I don't see what more do we need to know?
Because we
to
haven't,
not vote on it?
in this kind of, with kind of thing here with the Zoom thing, is that you really don't get everything from the neighbors. I don't want to close it and then them not be able to comment, you know? So to me, I don't think this gives the ability to the people in the neighborhood to actually get all of what that wants to get out, you know? And I think that if due to the fact that there are neighbors that are very concerned, have questions for the applicant, I don't think we're getting everything. So I would like to leave it open, Gina, until the next meeting.
Yeah.
A little bit more information from the other neighbors and not, you know, and it also will give you maybe a little bit of time to possibly talk to the neighbors that have concerns and maybe work on them to calm down their concerns that they have right now. Because going into this, you have 18 people and 10 people don't want it. That's not the way to go into a neighborhood, you know? So, I mean, basically, you know, for me, I would rather give you a little bit of time to try and resolve some issues there. And then when we come back from the next public hearing, then hopefully the comments won't be as, you know, so strong, you know, in opposition. Go ahead, Jeff.
Yeah, I just want to make it clear then, Sean, if you're looking to leave this open, you know, with the Zoom meetings, it could go on forever. So, you know.
Well, like I said, I just want to.
Right, but if we're going to leave it, but let me just finish. So if we're going to leave it open, I want to make it clear that, you know, if anybody has comments, submit them for the next meeting because.
Yes, and that's it.
Unless something unusual happens, we will close
Okay.
that.
Yeah, but we'll close it the next meeting. We're going to be just one more meeting and that's it. But I'd like to at least allow the neighbors to give some more information and allow you to, on your own, maybe resolve some of the issues. Okay? Go ahead.
Sean, if I
This is
may.
a real estate transaction. Can they wait? I mean, can the house they're looking at buying, can they sell it to somebody else? Is that a concern we should keep in mind here?
Actually, the contract.
We are under contract. The issue is we have some timing and an additional 2 weeks.
When's the next meeting? The 8th, right?
Yeah, June 8th. Respectfully, that's not the commission's business. I would not let that influence what you want to do, okay? Respectfully, that's the applicant's responsibility to resolve, and you may want to be courteous about that, but I would not, if you want to leave the hearing open, you know, you can leave it open. You're within your time limit set forth.
I would like to leave the meeting open till the 8th. And
I just want everybody to know one thing before. Let me just insert something here. As far as the neighbors go, and some of them are listening, which is good. Her notification of people in the neighborhood is governed by section 26 of the zoning regulations, which requires that she notify the abutters. So there's no requirement that she had to contact everybody on the street. So we had some comments about how come I wasn't contacted. If they don't abut the property, then they weren't required to be noticed under the provisions of section 26. The enhanced notice provision requires enhanced notice where there's a non-residential use proposed within a residential district. And she did satisfy the requirements set forth in the reg. I just want everybody to know that, so.
Okay, and I understand that. Go ahead, Jeff, you have a question.
I was going to say, I would, you know, I know it's the chair's call. If it were me, though, I think I would probably close it tonight, but it's falls to
And
the chair.
I would agree with Jeff. I think there is a sufficient notice and notification and information put out. I don't see the need for having to hold out any longer.
All right, before you close it, we've got a few more that just came in that you really need to read into the record if you're gonna close
I'm
it.
not closing it. I'm not closing it. I mean,
Okay.
it's just too much stuff coming in, and that's what, and I will close it the next hearing. There'll be one more hearing, but when you have this kind of application where there's a lot of opposition, I don't feel that it gives everyone involved enough time with one of these and done. It just doesn't. So go ahead, Matt. You have a question?
Well, Casey had her hand up first, so
Oh, I'm
I'm
sorry.
gonna let her
Sorry,
go
Casey.
first.
That's all right. I
Go
was
ahead.
going to say what Lou was saying, if maybe we could get a number of the actual houses, not that one person's written 10 letters or whatever, so that we could find out exactly how many.
And I agree with that. I mean, I can't, from Zoom, I can't see
Right.
whose letter is, at least if I have the letters in front of me, I compare them and say, okay, well, 7 times this one neighbor said a comment. That's
Right.
different, So go ahead, Matt.
Well, you are gonna let Bill or Suzanne read these comments that have come in into the record
Yes,
tonight, right?
They just came in now, but like I said, I'm gonna leave it open until June 8th, and then we'll close it on June 8th. And I don't know, Bill, if we can make this one of the first ones so we get it knocked out.
Yeah, well, you got a continuation of the other one, first of all. We'll continue this one, this will be the second,
Okay.
and you're gonna continue you got the one, the Cayley subdivision coming up, that's also gonna be continued, so.
Okay.
June 8th is gonna be an interesting meeting, guys. We're gonna, that agenda's looking pretty loaded right now. We may have to talk about that, but, okay, go ahead.
Well, that's what I'm saying is like, it's very difficult with these kind of meetings when you have.
This format is terrible, basically.
It sucks.
I understand.
It really does. It's terrible. So, okay, I'm sorry, Gina, that put you through that. And I mean, I just need to make it fair to everybody. That's my job. I can't be one-sided just to you or anyone else.
I understand.
Is there any other questions before we have the other comments read in, please?
Yeah, this is Lou. Just one comment. I don't think this will be a problem, but with something has this much controversy, just for the record, and there may be neighbors and such listening, comments can only come in through the planning and zoning office. You can't contact commissioners independently or individually during the course of the next couple of weeks. All comments have to come in through the planning and zoning office.
I appreciate
As well as, and people should also avoid social media. That's not the place where comments should come in. Comments should come into this office by email, please. You can call us. We're happy to help with that, so.
Okay. Suzanne, you still there?
Yes, I am.
Okay, you want to read it? And I'm sorry, go ahead.
Sure. So 9:14 p.m. Greenbrier is a through road and not a cul-de-sac like Eastridge. By the way, I never got a letter. That's from Joseph Pacone. At 9:15, only 2 addresses on East Ridge Court supported her business, and one of those included the realtor, Jerry Rock. Dr. Weiss Lavasek did not contact me. It was sent to 4 people on East Ridge Court. That's from Paris Godbout. 9:15 p.m. The letter was only sent to 4 addresses on this neighborhood. That's from Matt Godbout. At
That's all
9:15.
required. And we defined that. So, okay, go ahead.
Yes. At 9:15, there's it's in the subject line saying, I did call her. And that is from Nasim Vadi. And then 9:15, there only has to be one incident. The current owners of 8 East Ridge Court should be taken off. That's from Gina Borgman. And that's it for the latest comments that came in.
Okay, go ahead, Matt. I'm sorry. Go.
If this was, I know this times are just a little bit different right now, but we keep hearing from the same people time and time and time again, reiterating the same thing time and time and time again. We wouldn't allow that at a public hearing, and I don't know why we're allowing it now.
But Matt, the problem is I can't identify who's actually talking because I can't see it in front of me. So like, she can read that off, but I would like to look at it in front of me to see who's saying what. I mean, when you have 10 people opposed of 18 lot subdivision and you can't identify why they're opposed for the 10 people in front of you, I think that gives it an unfair advantage. I mean, I think that we should do our, look into it a little bit more and then close at the next public hearing. I'm just, time, I don't want to shut down a meeting that, basically you haven't given the answer,
No, I'm not asking you to shut it down. I understand that you're going to continue it, and that is your prerogative. But I guess the point I'm trying to make is that it's, it's the same thing time and time and time again. And I'm repeating myself now. We wouldn't allow this at a public hearing. You wouldn't allow it at a public hearing. You would say, listen, you've already had your comment. They would get up and speak, and that would be the end of it. Or you would also, possibly say, listen, you don't have to be redundant. All the people don't have to get up and say the same thing over and over and over again. That's all I'm saying, Sean.
It's just harder. It's harder to identify it on this kind of format.
I understand. I completely agree with you.
I mean, I can't in my mind know who said that or why they said that or where they live on the street to say that. That's kind of where I'm at. Okay, anyone else before we move on? And there's nothing else that came in, right, Bill? Suzanne?
Dan, we're good, right? Yeah. Right, that's it, Sean.
Okay, all right. So we're gonna leave it open until June 8th. I'm sorry, Gina, that's about the best we could do.
Okay, so June 8th, I'll come back at 7:30.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Yep. Okay. Here comes EJ.
EJ, you're on mute.
I have to unmute. Sorry about that. Subdivision application, Carol Cayley LLC, South Meriden Road, Colton Lane, 11 lots. Can we hear the call, please?
Yes, the re-subdivision application of Carol Cayley LLC, care of Ryan McAvoy, PE, Malone and McBroom, Inc., 99 Realty Drive, Cheshire, Connecticut, 06410, for 11 lots, property located on South Meriden Road and Colton Lane, as generally shown on Assessor's Map number 52, lot number 70, parcel B, in an R40 and R80 zone. Packet information is available for review on the town website homepage under documents distributed or displayed during virtual meetings.
Thank you. Mr. McAvoy, you tackling this one?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Can everybody hear me, first of all?
Yes, we can.
Yes. Thank you. For the record, my name is Ryan McAvoy. I'm a licensed professional engineer with Malone and McBroom, and I'm here on behalf of the applicant, Carol Cayley LLC, for a 11-lot standard residential subdivision on a parcel that was referred to as Parcel B as part of the Bishop Cayley subdivision from 2018. The property is 17.7 acres in size with frontage on South Meriden Road and on the temporary cul-de-sac of Colton Lane. The Colton Lane cul-de-sac is located in the northeast corner of the subject parcel, and South Meriden Road is located more or less on the west side of the property. It is primarily in the R40 zone. There is a small portion at the far eastern corner of the lot that is R80. And the R80 portion of the lot is abutting the Broadbrook Reservoir, which is the property immediately to the east of the site. To the north is our lots that were part of the Sunrise Farm subdivision, which was approved in 2011. Colton Lane and the temporary cul-de-sac was constructed as part of that particular subdivision from 9 years ago. The parcel is, I already have a visitor for my daughter. Charlotte, please. Bedtime. Pardon me. The property is primarily overgrown old fields and is gently sloping in nature for the most part, particularly where the development is proposed. As you go to the east toward Broadbrook Reservoir, the grade starts to get steeper. That area is not particularly where we're proposing development of this subdivision. We do have a high elevation in the southwest corner near South Meriden Road of about 266, and a low elevation in the body of the property near Colton Lane, near lot 35 Colton Lane of 224. And then the property extends further to the east to 158 at the reservoir. There are a few small, narrow wetland fingers on the eastern side of the property, and we are avoiding those wetland areas. And the Wetlands Commission has determined that as a result of the lack of activity in proximity to the wetlands, that a wetland permit is not needed. In particular, what we're proposing is an 11-lot subdivision. All the lots will be located within the R40 portion of the lot, of the parcel, and will be providing access to all 11 of those lots through an extension of the temporary cul-de-sac on Colton Lane all the way out to South Meriden Road. It's about a 900-foot extension approximately. As part of this, we would eliminate the temporary cul-de-sac at the current end of Colton Lane, and our road would intersect with South Meriden Road directly opposite of Harvard's Court. This is a little bit different than what we had envisioned with our initial efforts with the subdivision. As part of the original Bishop Cayley subdivision, we had contemplated an extension of Colton Lane into another temporary cul-de-sac, but through pre-application meetings with staff, it was determined that for emergency service access, that the preferred approach would be to have this road extend opposite of Harvest Lane to South Meriden Road. The extension of the road itself will be all in conformance with the town regulations. The maximum grade of the road is proposed at 7%, which is below the maximum of 10%. We are proposing sidewalks on both sides, 30-foot road width, all again in conformance with the regulations. The lots that will be served will be ranged generally in from 40 to 50,000 square feet in size. There are two lots, lots 8 and 9, to the southeast corner of the property that will be served by a common driveway. They are not rear lots. They each have their own 50 feet frontage, but we are combining the driveways to limit impervious surfaces. Those two properties are roughly 3 to 4 acres in size. They are all lots are proposed to be served by on-site septic systems and wells. We have received a feasibility letter from the Health Department, Health District, demonstrating that the lots are suitable for sewage disposal systems. In terms of drainage from the property, we are collecting and conveying drainage along the roadway with a conventional pipe and catch basin system that will discharge to a new stormwater basin located in the low area of the property near Colton Lane currently. And that basin is sized to detain and decrease the volume and rate of runoff for up to the 100-year storm. It incorporates a sediment chamber to eliminate coarse sediments from the road, and has water quality volume incorporated within the bottom of the basin that is designed in accordance with the 2004 DEP or DEEP Stormwater Quality Manual, and includes sediment forebays and things of that nature to further limit how much sediment would possibly leave through the outlet control structure. The sediment erosion control plan, again, fairly standard. We're directing runoff from the roadway construction itself to temporary sediment traps to design in accordance with the 2000 DEEP guideline for erosion and sedimentation control. Each lot will have incorporated within its own construction, sediment fence, construction as appropriate. And the fire emergency services are being accommodated with the construction or the proposed 30,000 gallon cistern located roughly halfway on the roadway extension. This cistern is sized in accordance with the fire department's requirements, and also has been constructed in other subdivisions in town. We have received some comments from the fire department indicating their constructability concerns about the cistern, but in general they are seem to be okay with the location and the proposed cistern itself. So that is a quick presentation for the proposed site or subdivision. Again, we're not seeking any waivers. This is a conventional subdivision, all in accordance with the town road standards, R40 district. And we have received comments from the engineering department that we've provided revised plans in response to. And we understand that this public hearing will remain open to allow for further discussion with the engineering department on those matters. But it seems that the police department, in their comments, they're pleased with the roadway alignment. We do have to go to the DOT, should this receive approval from this commission, for the curb cut and for the new roadway on South Meriden Road. I can say that our sightlines available from our proposed intersection are well in excess of what would be required by the DOT. You can see for hundreds and hundreds of feet, in excess of 500 feet in each direction, without any obstructions in the horizontal or vertical geometry of South Meriden Road. There will need to be some limited clearing of vegetation within the right-of-way. Again, all would have to be reviewed and approved by the DOT, and that would occur generally after a local approval was granted.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, I do have comments to read into the record from fire and police.
Sure.
First item is dated May 21st, 2020 from Jack Kazner and Mike Kozlowski, Cheshire Fire Department. Fire Department has reviewed the above application for the planning and zoning process. We recommend the following comments and stipulations. If this application is approved, code compliance plans must be submitted to the building official and fire marshal's office prior to construction. 1, final design of the cistern will need to be approved by the fire chief or his designee. 2, there will be a suction and fill pipe provided on each tank. 3, suction and fill pipes that will connect the fire department apparatus will be constructed of a material stronger than PVC pipe. 4, the establishment of the homeowners association prior to construction is paramount. This agreement should clearly define when and who will be responsible for maintenance of the cistern. And then from the Cheshire Fire Department or Police Department dated May 21st. Bill, I'd like to add that our most recent proposal for the subdivision shows a through road, Colton Lane, that would connect Oregon Road with South Meriden Road. From police traffic perspective, this proposed through road is a better solution than the original plan to construct a temporary cul-de-sac, which would have set up the potential for connecting road to the adjacent property to the south. If it were ever to be developed, this would have resulted in Colton Lane and Oregon Road being used as a cut-through for vehicles that want to avoid the traffic light at the intersection of South Meriden Road at Reservoir Road. We all know that navigational aids like Waze and Apple Maps utilize such cut-through roads to save their users precious time, and this would be no different. Officer Kevin Zaxowitz, Support Services Traffic Unit, Cheshire Police Department, and that was dated May 21st, 2020. That's all we have, Mr. Chairman. We do have comments from the public. Suzanne, like to read that into the record?
Just quickly, before that, the comments from the engineering department, I don't want to read them in the record. There's a lot, there's 27 of them, I think, but is that something, Ryan, you were working on? And we will not have comments of the next public hearing? Is that, obviously they have not all been addressed?
Yes, so we were waiting for comments from the police and fire department prior to submitting our revised plans, and those came in, I believe, at the end of last week, so we felt comfortable submitting our revised plans to address the comments from the engineering department. Obviously, we submitted that yesterday, so they have not had a chance to review. My hope is that by the next public hearing, we'll be in a position to state that we've addressed their concerns.
Perfect, thank you. Sorry to interrupt, Bill.
No, that's right. Suzanne, you want to read in what you have?
Okay, received today at 6:27 p.m. with several photo attachments. Mr. Volker, attached is a group of pictures taken from the proposed subdivision on South Meriden Road. Our concerns are chemical residue from the apple orchards as there is activity on proposed lots. We all have wells in the area and are worried they could become polluted. Is their property considered in the aquifer zone? Should they have come to planning and zoning before beginning activity on the site? We are not opposed to the subdivision at this time. We just have concerns about the current activity and potential pollution. Please relay our concerns to the Planning and Zoning Commission. Thank you for listening to our concerns. Signed, Oregon Road Group.
Is that the only?
By the way, that's all we have. The property is not within an aquifer protection zone. It is within the Broadbrook Reservoir Zone, and I believe City of Meriden was notified. We received no comments from them. So, but we'll look at those we'll look at the comments, we'll get them to the commission, including the photos that they took, and we'll be able to comment for you on that before the next meeting, so.
Okay, thank you. Commission members, any questions, comments on this application? Mr. Natale, nothing? Yep, go ahead.
Expected that. Okay. So,
Saw you moving.
well, yeah, just trying to find the mouse there to unmute. So, Ryan, I know that you're going to address the engineering department's comments at the next meeting, but one in particular kind of stuck out to me, and that's number 14. So, the current applicant, are they the ones who previously subdivided the property?
Not exactly. The property of Sunrise Farm subdivision was originally a simple division or a simple free cut from the Bishop Cayley Trust. The property that became Sunrise Farm subdivision was purchased and constructed by a separate entity, but the whole property was at one point part of the Bishop Farm.
Okay, so in that comment from engineering, it says lot number 1, which was approved at the time of the last re-subdivision, does not possess the previously required drainage provisions. So they didn't do something last time that they were supposed to do. So is that going to be fixed?
No, and let me explain the logic behind that. When we subdivided this gets to be a little convoluted with regard to how the property's been split and cut over the years. But 2 years ago, in 2018, we submitted and got approved for a subdivision of what was about 40 acres almost of land into this property that it's currently in front of you, and 21 plus acres that has been retained by the Bishop family. And on that, as part of that subdivision, to create one new lot out of a 40-acre lot, we had to demonstrate how the property could be theoretically developed. So what we had on that particular application was a simple house and driveway in the northwest corner of the lot, with the ability to attenuate any peak runoff through some small rain gardens. Now, in this particular application, now that we're looking to develop the whole property, the way in which we're handling runoff from that area is by essentially reducing a significant portion of the amount of runoff that gets to the lots on South Meriden Road. And the road itself, our proposed road, will cut off quite a bit of that watershed. So I would refer you to our drainage report, which is a good read if you're at all interested. But what we refer to in our drainage report as analysis point A, which is the properties immediately adjacent to our subdivision on South Meriden Road. Our drainage analysis as a result of the proposed conditions of this subdivision demonstrate that we are going to experience a decrease in runoff, primarily because we're essentially cutting off a lot of the watershed that gets to analysis point A. So the need to have those provisions that were part of one potential lot at the time aren't needed. Having said that, we can review that with the town engineer and see what might be appropriate. But that's the reason why they were shown 2 years ago and not today.
Gotcha. And again, that just stuck out to me because engineering saying it was previously required and wasn't done.
Well, previously required based on what we were proposing at the time under the conditions that we're proposing today, in order to maintain a decrease or no increase in runoff to the neighboring properties, we wouldn't necessarily need to incorporate those provisions.
Gotcha. And also just, I guess, EJ, I'm gonna ask one more thing. So the homeowners association, that will be?
The homeowners association will have to be formed to provide maintenance of the stormwater basins and also of the fire cistern. And that'll be something that typically is reviewed with staff if this were subject to an approval. The specific language of what the homeowners association would be required to be responsible for typically occurs post-approval.
Thanks.
Mr. Bowman.
So your stormwater basins are nowhere near the wetlands or do not have the ability to drain towards the reservoir, correct?
That is correct.
Okay, I looked at it on the plan and that's the way it looked. I just wanted you to confirm it.
Okay, anybody else with questions, comments? Okay, any more public comment, Bill?
No, Mr. Chairman, and whatever comes in between now and then, we'll get to you.
Okay, so I'll be holding this public hearing open. Thank you, Ryan, very much.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good night.
Right, with that, I'll
Good night,
entertain
Ryan.
the public hearing.
Motion.
By Mr. Natale, seconded by Mr. Bowman. All those in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye.
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 All right, moving on, I'm going to call the Planning and Zoning Commission special meeting for Wednesday, May 27th, 2020. Can I get a motion to accept the minutes of the public hearing and special meeting from 5/11/2020?
Motion to approve.
Moved Mr. by Mr. Mercado. Any discussion, comments, anything, the minutes? They
I
were.
have one correction. On the public hearing minutes, it says that Mr. Carderas was here and he wasn't.
That is correct, so we will make that change. Anybody else have any other
Well,
changes?
Mr. Dawson was here for a little bit, so I don't know how that would work.
Well, I was there, right?
He was here.
He was there.
He was there.
I saw him, he was there.
So,
But it's not listed.
well, that's always.
It also states in the minutes where he zoomed out or, whatever it is, he lost the internet. It says that in the minutes, so it's all there. Anyone else with any questions, comments, or concerns? Okay, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Anyone abstaining? Motion carries unanimously. All right, 1, 2, and 3, all held open, tabled applications.
For the last one, please. I was abstaining. I wasn't there.
Okay, so the motion carries 8-0-1 with Mr. Kaderis abstaining. Everything else we have set already for, boy, June 8th is going to be a heck of a night.
Yeah, but we've got no new business at this point, so we've got nothing to carry other than, we got to run into the new applications and, but we don't have anything to schedule beyond that right now, so. We will be getting some things, I do know that, so.
Well, don't put it, we're not going to put them on the 8th, that's for sure.
Has there been any talk of going live again in person?
Nope.
Next
No.
question. Nothing at all? Town hall
No.
still public?
Correct.
All right.
Do we have an estimate?
No, we have nothing.
These meetings really are not that easy to do, the planning and zoning
No,
meetings.
they're very difficult. They create a lot of problems, as we know, so.
Yeah.
I mean, is that something our town council or manager can look into?
Yeah, I know I know there's discussions about it, but I have nothing to discuss with you at this point. I know they are discussing it. But really, there's nothing I can tell you about right now. So it'd be inappropriate for me to even talk about it, because I don't really
So
know
what
much
about
other than that there's discussion.
Bill, what about in other towns? Have you heard any other things from other towns?
No, as far as I know, but because the governor's order is still in place about limiting the size of the gatherings, and so, and even if you could meet all together in the same room with separations, to what extent would be able to even invite the public into the building at this point? I can't comment on that, so I just don't know. So
I don't particularly like these meetings, but we haven't been doing badly. We've heard a lot of testimony. I guess it'd be nice if the public could actually speak rather than send emails, but I don't know. These have been going okay, I think, frankly.
yeah, it's awkward though. So
Yeah, it's very odd.
I mean, Mike, can you hear us? Do you have the capability of letting others log in but not have video and just have audio when you deem it ready for them to speak?
It would be the host of the meeting, so it would be Bill or whoever's running the meeting. I'm here. I'm just here as a member like you.
But is that a capability?
no, at this point, no. The format we have is the format that we're using is a format that we're required to use at this point. So
By whom? I mean, there's no other options. We're not looking into anything.
I'm not given any other options at this point. So
All right, maybe this isn't the best time to discuss. Maybe if we have comments that we all want to make, we can get them to Bill and
You can all-
Bill put it to the
Give
appropriate.
me a call, yeah. So,
Okay, anything else to come before the commission tonight?
no, Mr. Chairman.
All right, with that, I'll entertain another motion to adjourn this meeting.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Nelson, second. Ricardo, all those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, everybody.
All right.